Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Taliban have fired shots to disperse the crowd at a large protest in the Afghan capital Kabul. Video footage from the scene shows people running to safety while heavy gunfire can be heard in the background. Hundreds of protesters took to the streets to demand women's rights and denounce Taliban rule. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has warned that hundreds of medical facilities in Afghanistan are at risk of imminent closure because donors who provide the financing are not allowed to deal with the new Taliban government. Guinea's main opposition leader has welcomed Sunday's ousting of the president, calling it an opportunity for a new beginning for the country. Celo Dalien Diallo said the army had made a historic act that completes the fight started by pro-democracy groups. He urged the army to ensure there was national reconciliation. The ousted president was initially elected in 2010 in the country's first democratic transfer of power. Despite overseeing some economic progress, he has since been accused of presiding over numerous human rights abuses and harassment of his critics. The Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has been hit by gravel thrown by protesters during a campaign stop. He was returning to his bus after visiting a brewery when he was struck by small stones. He was not injured. Mr. Trudeau called a snap election in mid-August in the hope of gaining a majority government for his left-of-centre Liberal Party, but his campaign has been disrupted by demonstrations against COVID-19 vaccine mandates and other restrictions. Tropical storm Conson has made landfall in the central Philippines. Conson, with winds packing 93 miles per hour, made its first landfall on the eastern province of Samar and is forecast to slowly weaken as it moves northwest while traversing the Philippines Islands. The country's National Weather Agency warned of heavy to intense rains, along with the possibility of flooding and landslides in parts of the central Philippines in the next 24 hours. A third man has died in Japan after receiving an injection from one of 3 batches of Moderna vaccines that have since been identified as contaminated. The 49-year-old man died the day after he received his second shot. As with the previous 2 deaths, the ministry said it had yet to establish if the latest fatality was linked to the vaccine. The shot came from the same batches that were found to have fragments of stainless steel in them, leading to a recall of 1.6 million doses of the Moderna vaccine. El Salvador has become the first country to accept Bitcoin as legal tender. From today, businesses will be obliged, where possible, to accept the volatile cryptocurrency as payment. Millions of people are expected to download the government's new digital wallet app, which gives away $30 in Bitcoin to every citizen. More than 200 new cash machines are being installed across the country to enable dollars to be converted into Bitcoin. Venice plans to charge visitors for access and set entrance quotas from the summer of 2022. A month after cruise ships were banned from the lagoon, city authorities are preparing to demand that tourists pre-book their visas on an app that charged day trippers between €3 and €10 to enter, depending on the time of year. Authorities have yet to decide how many people are too many and the timeline for the new rules to kick in. The restoration of Britain's iconic Big Ben Tower has moved closer to completion with the return of the hands on its famous clock, now restored to their original Prussian blue colour. The 177-year-old tower has been swathed in scaffolding since 2017 when craftsmen began work to refurbish its stonework, reglaze the 4 clock dials and repaint the ironwork. The now £80 million restoration project is due to be completed next year, when the famous bell, which has been largely silenced, will chime once again. And finally, a lost and lonely penguin has been rescued by members of Chile's fisheries body. The Humboldt penguin had been spotted by tourists who said it seemed disorientated. It's thought sea currents took the animal away from its natural habitat. When the weak penguin was found, it was taken to the vets and then on to a national park for its release. Humboldt penguins are considered a vulnerable species and have undergone extreme population size fluctuations in the past. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.